Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Thanks for taking the time out of your day, and welcome to our webinar, How Sony Expanded AIOps Insights to Incident Management Teams. Before we jump into things, just a couple of housekeeping notes that I want to take note of. First of all, we are recording this as always, and so this will be available on demand for you to be able to watch after, share with other folks that might be interested. Very easy to get this if you have to jump early or if you can't stay. One other piece, if you notice over in the right-hand side of your panel, there is a paperclip icon. From there, there's a couple of handouts from BigPanda. Feel free to check those out. We'd love for you to download those so you have them after the fact. And then finally, also in the panel, there is a questions icon. And so you're more than welcome to ask some questions throughout. Depending on our timing, we'd love to be able to get to a couple questions at the end of our session today. And with that, let's jump right into our content today. We're here with Sony and Cam from BigPanda here. We're going to talk a little bit about how Sony's PlayStation really got started with AIOps and how that helped their NOC teams become faster and more efficient at their triage processes. They also realized, though, there were other teams that could get some benefit from this AIOps solution and the context that was bringing to the table. And so how did they go about that process of sort of like bridging that gap between the teams and the tools that they're using to really be able to, as we say, is like meet them where they're working. And then Cam's going to really show that to you and see it in action and see how AIOps is able to integrate into that ITSM platform. And we'll talk through a couple of best practices from the great folks here who have lived and do live and breathe this on a daily basis. And so let's introduce our team today. So we have Ben Nairmore, who is the Director of Global Operations and Service Management with Sony PlayStation. He works cross-functionally across Sony PlayStation to make sure that his operations and his service management teams are delivering the best possible experience to both internal teams as well as to the players themselves. Ben has been with Sony for over 7 years and has 20 years of experience across operations and incident management, holding roles at Intuit, TurboTax, and others in the past. And then we have Cameron Stone here. He's our Director of Professional Services at BigPanda. He is very passionate and motivated about delivering solutions that help enterprise IT operations and ITSM teams really become smarter, faster, and more efficient to be able to deliver efficiency and in service reliability for their organizations. He leads a team of solutions architects teams here who focus on helping those enterprises really focus on long-term digital transformation. And he has more than 14 years of ServiceNow experience, including being a founding member of Intrius, which was an organization that ServiceNow acquired. Cam and Ben, thank you for joining us. Appreciate it. I know you have very busy days, so thank you for being here.
Thanks, Katie. Glad to be here.
Thank you.
Awesome. And then I'm Katie Petrillo. I am Senior Director of Product Marketing at BigPanda. I'm just here to keep the show going. And so with that, let's kick things off and kind of start with hearing for a little bit from Ben about how Sony PlayStation really got started with AIOps and with BigPanda. They've been using BigPanda and AIOps with their internal NOC teams, at least to start, and their infrastructure teams across many data sources, and really have been using the tool for over 5 years. But I guess, Ben, let's start with if we can kind of go back in time and share some of those initial challenges that your team was facing 5 years ago with event management and just in general your IT ops processes that made you want to look at an AIOps solution.
Yeah, absolutely. When I started with PlayStation 7+ years ago, the first thing I noticed, I was given to lead the operations teams, and just the amount of noise and volume coming in from alerts was overwhelming to me. And I couldn't even imagine from my operations team, just alerts. It was just overwhelming. So went back, I'm like, we've got to manage this. It's not, we can't move forward with this. We can't expect, we're going to either have to hire 1,000 more people or do something about these alerts. So that was the number one goal on my list when I got the PlayStation. And I actually started negotiations with BigPanda at Intuit in the past, so I knew about them. So I made the call early and brought BigPanda in to start talking to you guys about how we can take this noise and really turn it down a notch.
Great. And when you did bring BigPanda in, what did that initial deployment look like? Obviously, you talked about the alert volume, but like, what were your initial goals that you were looking to solve for?
Yeah, and I knew it was going to be a phased approach. And initial goal one was absolutely the volume, right?
Yeah.
And I had all these barriers in place around the infrastructure about missing data, not getting it all, not linking things together. So we're trying to piecemeal data as it came in. So being able to see it and and I know this is a bougie term everyone uses now, is a single pane of glass, right? Of we're all looking for it. But that's what I was looking for. And when we kind of use BigPanda as that. So bringing them in just to be that one place my operations folks can go to get answers and solutions.
Yeah. I know there's a number of different data sources, and it's everything from Datadog to SolarWinds, email parsers, that kind of speaks to you're getting data from all these different places. And when you say single pane of glass, you are able to bring all of those data sources into really one view for those teams to help them manage that volume. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, and that was another thing we did. We had probably way too many systems. So
Hmm.
we did this big overlook of what our environment looked like and say, let's narrow it down, and then adding BigPanda on top of that and narrowing it down another level, right? So giving us that ability to triage and instead of escalating tickets, we were just being able to say, okay, this makes sense now, right? And before
Yeah.
we were just escalating. And I mean, coming from an operations background, folks know that. And so any volume to turn down on escalating is a good thing. So that
Yeah.
was my number one goal coming in.
Got it. Okay, great. And and when we're kind of getting there, so let's talk a little bit about sort of some of the improvements that you saw come into play when you started to bring in the AIOps solution specifically for that. You mentioned triage and the ability to kind of triage more effectively. How did your operations processes and workflows improve for your NOC team once you brought BigPanda in?
Yeah, so absolutely. When we talked about that noise reduction, number one, that was
Mhm.
the quality improved tremendously off the back, and then that context around alerts, so we could triage items, and then also that gives us that improved data correlation, so the right issues to the right teams more quickly. So that was another key of before, and I know a lot of people on this call understand this. Back in the day, you paged the village because you didn't know. You had so
Yeah.
much data, right? We're calling everyone at 2 a.m, everyone getting a call, and we'll slowly let you go off as we narrow it down. So by adding this, we improved that correlation. So the right teams were on the call quickly. I didn't have to wake everyone up. I only have to wake certain teams up. So that was a huge win, right? And I think in general, it gave my operation teams a better work-life balance because of this, right? My teams were getting yelled at from people that were waking up in the middle of the night. We weren't paging everyone, and so it was just a win-win for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, not only I would say quality of life, but also that the lack of or the fewer escalations that are happening and the smaller, I guess, bridge calls, the fewer people that are being paged at 2 in the morning. I'm assuming that also has, implications for costs, right? Like you're
Oh,
letting those folks kind of
absolutely, yeah.
from.
Cost, and I used to say my goal when I came in, and this should be the goal of everyone in operations, is we were firefighters 7 years ago. We were just putting out fires. We couldn't investigate things. We were just, oh, fire, put it out. And now this helps us to be investigators, where we can, oh, we see a little fire over there. We're going to put it out early, right? So you're able to investigate things and not just react. We're doing things ahead of schedule now. So it's a huge win for an operations team to be able to do that, not only from the mental side, but the cost saving side of not having to stir things up.
Yeah. We're obviously talking a lot about operations and the NOC team and specifically that initial kind of triage. Um, when you brought BigPanda and AIOps into the organization, kind of did you see any change to the broader incident management team or to those processes? Kind of, was there any impact on the kind of end to end?
Yeah, absolutely. At the beginning, I saw that there was some improvement because of the information getting this management team, but I also noticed that there was I think I was missing out on an ability to add that, and connect them closer to the knock and the data they were seeing faster. It's about speed, right? If we do operations, a second could be, depending on your business, millions to thousands of dollars. And a second doesn't seem like a big deal to a lot of people. But in the big picture, it saves a lot of money. Seconds save money in operations.
Mm.
So to be able to link them together was something that I wanted to do. I saw it coming together, but I knew there was ability for us to do it even better in the future.
Yeah. Yeah, what you were starting to see is you were able to give that great correlated data from across all of those various data sources to your NOC team so that they would then be able to assign to the right teams more quickly, not bring in teams that didn't need to be involved or do those escalations, but still that information wasn't necessarily making it over to those incident management teams necessarily.
Right. Yeah. And there was definitely an opportunity to broaden that use of that data for sure.
Yeah, yeah. When you started to, obviously that's what we're here to talk about, is sort of like breaking down this fence that we're seeing here between the two teams and how do we bring them closer together. When you started to break down kind of some of those barriers, what was that process like? Obviously a lot of, every team, if we're looking at it here, your NOC team, they're working in BigPanda, they're happy there. Your incident management team, you have ServiceNow, they're working in ServiceNow, they're happy there. They don't want to go somewhere
Right.
else. So what was that process like when you started to try to get them to view the data and the context that's coming from BigPanda, and get the buy-in from that team?
Yeah, I think it was important for me, and I think for anyone doing this, to show the the value of the data, right? One, the value of the
Mhm.
data, and two, the ease of use between ServiceNow and BigPanda, how their relationship and how they talk. And I think that's a big plus for
Yeah.
BigPanda is there's a lot of relationships with tools. We use it for ServiceNow, for Slack, right? And how easy it is to manipulate those to work together. So making my employees know that the pool is not going to be that hard, right? That's always the fear of employees, like, oh, you're going to make me go to 2 tools now. I have to go into 4 tools to get the same data. But
Yeah.
to take them on the journey and show them, no, we can still get this data this way without having that struggle of you getting into 8 tools at the same time to get it right.
Yeah. That changing of behavior is hard. Whenever you start to involve humans and trying to change our habits, it's a challenge. No one wants to necessarily change their ways. But I guess, Cam, this kind of natural evolution that Ben saw within Sony PlayStation, where there's all this great context that is being delivered to the NOC team, and understanding that there's a lot of value in that, not just to the NOC team, because incidents don't stop at the NOC. Many of them, especially those higher, P0s, major incidents, continue on, and incident management teams and escalation teams do need to get involved. And so there's a lot of context that's valuable to them. This is, a bigger trend that BigPanda has been seeing in the last year or so, just around kind of how the life cycle goes on. Can you speak a little bit about this kind of evolution that we're seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. So, deploying ServiceNow for 14 years, in the earliest days, every monitoring tool would send incidents directly into ServiceNow. And there was a lot less monitoring noise back then. So things were, whether they were actually an incident or not was debatable, but people were managing their work in incident management, and there wasn't necessarily some operational place where they were, managing tickets. Essentially, they used something like ServiceNow to do that with. As the volume of events has increased with just everything, all the insane software deployments that we have now with Kubernetes, and just there's so much telemetry out there that you almost have to insert a system, which, one of the terms is, reducing noise, but I like to also think of it as pulling the signal from the noise, because we're trying to identify the good things that are in there without actually saying, throw this out, because it all could be important forensically for someone to go dig into and look at. But we are seeing a big shift where you have to put some kind of high fidelity system like BigPanda in the event stream. and understand the context of what's going on to deliver good actionable incidents to ServiceNow, where they're not canceling incidents or ignoring incidents that they don't care about. We're giving them true actionable things that are broken, and not just a bunch of things that need work in an incident queue, which is a very standard practice these days. People have incidents that are not really incidents, and then they want to know how to measure it better. And why do I have so many incidents? Well, putting things in an operational context in BigPanda can help with that, basically.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. Yeah. So I guess level set where we're at here, right? So Ben started talking about Sony PlayStation 5 years ago. Their teams were struggling with really high volume of noise. They brought in AIOps from BigPanda to be able to, get visibility across a variety of data sources. They correlated that data, brought some new context to those ops teams and NOC teams so that they could triage and be able to get something to the right teams, and just the right teams, not a bigger org group, much more quickly. But at the same time, those incident management teams were still working in ServiceNow and wanted to be able to get some of that great context to them so that when an incident lands in their lap, they have all that same background that the NOC teams had. So it eliminates some of that manual investigation work that they might be doing. And BigPanda has been able to do that. The question is, how are we able to do that? Which is what we want to talk about now. And so with our latest integration with a ServiceNow ticket that has released recently, we're able to bring all that great context that the NOC teams are looking at and really deliver it to those incident managers right in the ITSM platform. Cam, you want to tell us a little bit about what this looks like?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the things that we're going to kind of step through in some of these slides is the concept of an alert table attached to your incident table. And that is where a lot of this context comes from that we're talking about. So as BigPanda is correlating things using all of its enrichment data and everything that it has, coming through the wire, like I like to say. So we're aware of so much data that's coming from an event stream. We're able to kind of assemble that based on correlation patterns or enrichment data and assemble a bunch of alerts into an incident and push that to ServiceNow. And we have multiple ways to drop those alerts into ServiceNow. So there's plenty of options, whether it's our table or a standard ServiceNow table, or even an incident task table, which is available. But that context of assignment, of the additional metadata that comes with an alert, the description of it is available real time to look at, along with its status, whether it's open or closed. So you can kind of watch in ServiceNow a very similar thing that you could go into BigPanda and look at as well. So this is the meet you where you want to work. If you want to work in BigPanda console, you can. If you want to work in ServiceNow, we'll provide basically the same level of context in both platforms.
And Cam, I think to add to that, I think what I saw the improvement is the consistency of the data used by multiple teams, right? So before we were getting, my incident managers were getting it 5 minutes later than the NOC, or vice versa, and there was no consistency in the data they were using. Now I'm seeing during the incident, we're very consistent in the data that everyone's using to solve the problem.
Yeah, makes sense. And we do talk about a very methodical way to operationalize incidents, and I do talk through it more at the end here, but it's find things that are truly operational, and then if you can weed out telemetry to make sure that you're handling operational tasks, you're going to be left with the true break fixes. And it's a progression of awareness and understanding that both teams work together to address. Cool. Oh, yep. I will slide. There you go. So one of the interesting things with this BP alert table, when we talk about unactionable tickets, it is to that point of, did we send something to the incident table that was really an operational task? So if you're getting an alert where it's basically saying, hey, this hard drive is 50% full, I think you should go do something about it. That's not really a break fix. Very common today that people will send that over to an ITSM platform to just be action there. But one of our, premises of reducing noise or pulling the signal from the noise is to not send things that aren't broken into a service management, process essentially. And so when we talk about unactionable or noisy alerts, we're talking about handling them downstream in either automated, using Ansible or some other technology to automate them away, or potentially, having an operational team that works as a NOC inside of BigPanda. But at the same time, you can send things straight to a BP alert table or an incident task table and have them managed in one of those places as well, very quickly and efficiently. And that's what we're trying to improve upon here is the awareness of overall incidents and what's inside of them. All right. When we talk about correlations, the biggest thing that comes up very frequently is, what do I do with an incident that has 3 assignment groups in it? And so without one of these alert tables on an incident, you really can't do much with that. If you have an app that goes down because of a database problem, and that database problem is really a network problem, you've got 3 different groups that we've correlated, and you're going to have to just kind of pick a group at an incident level to say, you're going to handle this. And you might not be right in that assignment. So when you have one of the alert tables or an incident task table, you have the ability to assign and then notify from like a RACI perspective. You can have all 3 groups listed on the incident, and they can all get notifications that say, hey, you're part of this incident. You might not be the primary assignee right now, but we're letting you know something is wrong, and here's the details. This solves a pretty major problem we were seeing for years in the industry of, what do we do with these multi-contextual, assigned incidents that we want to get everyone together quicker, but not call, as Ben said earlier, don't call everyone in the company into a war room, because we know that we've got 3 specific groups that are part of this. Just get them involved, and then use meantime to innocence to figure out whose problem it isn't anymore, and you're left with the true resolver. So the context that we talk about very frequently, or we've been talking about, is in the description here. So we use a ton of enrichment processes, and as the event stream is coming through, we're keeping track of various things along with the incident or the event as it's traversing our systems, and we pass all of that metadata through in an alert itself. So if you were to correlate, let's say, 10 alerts into an incident, and you tried to pass all 10 alert metadata in one, you're going to get a huge list of stuff that's going to be very hard to triage. When you separate each alert out individually, you have the ability here to really look at, what was the metadata, what was this alert telling me, does it really matter, or is it just an informational alert that's correlated with a bigger incident? But our ability to take a rich metadata and put it in a very consolidated space with BP alerts or the incident tasks has allowed a lot of operators to move much quicker, to understand the data faster, and to end up getting it to the right team. If we've got a problem that is spreading network and database and app, and we can easily identify who we need to kind of look at this next. And one of the benefits of using incident task is, from BigPanda, you can define that certain alerts will require an action within an incident before the incident gets cleared. So if you need an app team to basically restart a service after the network fixes the database problem or the sync, you can have a task show up that says, we're not closing the incident until the app team restarts their service, and we're validating that the overall incident has cleared itself. So lots of flexibility on how you want to define your workflow, and you can bring it across from BigPanda based on a lot of this context.
And that goes back to my comment about speed, the need for speed in operations. Like I said, it sounds funny, we keep talking about seconds and seconds, but seconds is money. And I think we've all been on the calls, and I hate to admit it, where we sat around and no one knows what to do and no one knows who's doing what, and we're just all looking at each other, right? And this helps get that dead air out of, we know, yeah, bam, 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 we know who's doing what. And like I said, it's really important, and it really helps out in the bigger picture.
It allows the processes to work, right?
Yeah,
Rather
absolutely.
than being somewhat broken.
Right. And we have a very unique way to measure a lot of this too, to kind of show you some of that, which I'll touch on. But here, the critical thing is we have a lot of tags, and we can map tags into incident fields very easily. And if you're a ServiceNow customer, you know that you've probably modified your incident form. I don't know that I've ever seen a default one. So if you've got places where metadata needs to exist, we can make that happen relatively easily without customizations. Our app can take a tag and put it in an existing field that you have without having to change any code. It's just a process we built. But on top of that, when you look at our AIA summary, we use AI to kind of build out and look at the correlation of incidents, give you a root cause, give you a reasoning, give you a summary. And what's coming soon that I just saw, I've saw basically how should I go fix this example? Mm-hmm. And so that was it's really exciting to see, because that's what a lot of customers have been asking for, is like, can you tell me what I should go do first? And yeah, it's pretty impressive. So I like this a lot. And along with this, with our AI module comes two more things. Oops, go back one. I think we jumped. There we go. Sorry. Root cause correlation. So we are aware of all the changes that are going on in the system, and we do it based on when they go into in progress, which is defined in our configuration. So you can decide the state that changes it, that makes a change go active, essentially. So if you have complex change process, it's fine. And we take all of the data of the change, including all the affected CIs and services and the action plan, the backout plan, all the pieces of the change. And we will look through those, and we can suppress alerts as the change is ongoing. But after the change is cleared, when events are coming in, we're looking at those events to say, is there still something going on from this change? Or we can look back, even hours or days, and start to figure out, is this change potentially causing the problem that I'm seeing right now? And that can be based on more than just host names. That can be based on, we saw, the action, the plan to implement the change said reboot this server, and we can relate that to the host is down. So some of the AI and vector database that we use can make those assumptions and tell you, hey, I think this change might cause this problem. And we give you basically a suspect and a score, and then it can be matched basically by an operator in either the NOC or a service management. And it just gives you faster awareness into things that could be potentially impacting this incident.
Bringing the teams farther along, right? So they don't have to do that manual kind of research. And I know, Ben, this root cause and understanding kind of tracking changes between, especially not just even being able to track the changes, but being able to track them between BigPanda and ServiceNow, and that consistency of the change data and knowing what is actually a true sort of match versus what is suspect is something that your team saw to be extremely valuable in kind of bringing data.
It absolutely gives us that stability across the board on that data. And then what you don't think about, the outcome of this too, is that with the root cause analysis after the fact, it helps that go by smoother of being able to collect the data. We're not going to multiple sources to collect that data. It's all in one place. It matches up. So that helps tremendously.
Yeah. And to that note, the automated incident analysis, we have some customers taking that and using it in their post-incident review and kind of just massaging it. But it's a great baseline of like, this is what happened and this is what we investigated. So, a lot of teams really hate writing those post-incident reviews. They feel dreadful. So a little bonus, makes everything faster, seconds again. So similarly to, pun intended, root cause correlation, we have similar incidents, which, all the things that BigPanda is aware of, we are always using the same kind of vectorized database to understand, similarities between your descriptions and host names and just all the things, all the metadata that we know, to help surface basically things that repeatedly keep happening or similarly keep happening. This one's been a pretty big hit. Customers are really excited about similar incident. It's one of the bigger ones where, I thought root cause has a nice following, but when similar hit, people were like, "This is amazing," and it does really do a good job of showing you, especially things you might want to take into a problem management area. So, when you get 10 things that are very similar and they got the same level of percentage, it might be something that you want to take over to problem management, do an investigation, find out why does this keep happening all the time, because it really is. But likewise, it can get complex with, P2s too, where there's a lot of different correlated events, and it can surface things that look close to the same, network issues, database issues, and say, hey, last time, even though this was flagged as a database issue, we really had like a SAN drop off, and that's what caused the problem. So similar is pretty handy, and I know there'll be questions about, we do have a way to actually, it's an optional way to send incidents that are created outside of BigPanda. So if a manually created ServiceNow incident you want to send down, we can track those basically as alerts, and we do have a lot of customers that want to know about all the incidents that are in ServiceNow, and so it gives us a little bit more flexibility and visibility, to do similar incident even with manually created ones or ones that are created by other tools.
And this was huge for me because my incident managers probably dislike me a lot, because I used to tell them, I go, you need to be historians. I want you to tell me, oh yeah, the same issue as incidents coming on, and you need to remember that we saw this a year and a half ago, the same thing. I'm like, you need to be historians of incidents. And now it's happening for them. So
I was going to ask them. I was going to ask him, like, why do you think that this similar incident is so powerful when it gets shared with companies? And I think, Ben, you just answered that question. It's like, to be able to remember, I might remember that an incident like this happened, but where do I go find that information?
And it may take 30 to 40 minutes for my incident manager. Let me look it up and find it. Oh yeah, I found it. It was a year ago. And
or you got to call the guy, that's not working, because he knows everything. He's been here forever. It's that tribal knowledge.
The tribal knowledge guy, back in the dark room in the basement.
Yep. And when every second counts, that you can't waste those 40 minutes to try to track that information down.
Right.
Yeah.
So that moves us into a process BigPanda has developed for our continuous improvement that is a little bit different than what we're seeing, traditionally deployed. And I think it's because of the amount of noise that is out there, and in some cases, the ephemeral events, where you've got Kubernetes pods that maybe exist for a couple hours, right? And then you don't want that in your CMDB. But if there's something happened, you still want to know about it. And so we've kind of had to take a different approach, and we've developed, an improvement process that relies on something we call signal metrics. And a lot of that is looking at tags very deeply. And we're seeing a huge shift in the industry towards putting the tagging in the telemetry and kind of moving in almost that DevOpsy model where, you've almost got your assignment group or an app group or something in each monitoring event responsible by the teams that are, configuring that monitoring. So if I run an app, I'm configuring the monitoring, I'm including everything I need to solve that, and not depending on like a centralized monitoring team to do all this for us. And that way you're less dependent on some of the CMDB attributes, because you can move those attributes into the event stream itself. And that only helps everything we do. And so we like that. And now we're trying to find a way to measure that. And so the way that we do measure that is looking at, the quality of the tags, the strength of the tags. Do they exist? Did we get it to the right assignment group? Are you seeing reassignment bounces? Do we see SLA breaches? So in a lot of ways, our analytics can tell you if you've got people or process problems as well as data problems. And that's something that a lot of the normal metrics haven't been able to do in the past. So we look at doing that very specifically from, is the observability correct? That's your strength and your quality of your tagging. And operationally, those are the actionable versus non-actionable kind of things, whether you're getting events that are just completely useless and nobody's ever paying attention to. And as you get into service management, we start looking at like assignments and SLAs and, measuring like the effectiveness of the metadata that's downstream. And did we really create a great incident? Ultimately looking at, can we push any of this into automation so that it doesn't even happen again? Like get things out of incident, move them into ops, better telemetry, and then decide, can we just take this and automate it if it makes sense? So that's kind of our flow and what we want to do. And analytics is key to that.
Yeah. If you have bad data, bad context, you certainly are not going to be able to automate based on that. You're just kind of continuing the problem. But if you can identify the problems with analytics, then you can improve it and start to automate.
Measure. And one note on this is we have an analytics platform. We also have an open analytics hub. So we can connect to Power BI and, whatever meets you where you want to work, right? That's kind of the theme. So.
Yep. All right. Awesome. We've talked a little bit, obviously we started with the NOC team and Ben's NOC team and being able to deliver them context and then realizing that the incident management teams can benefit from that context as well. Cam just talked us through what does it look like to meet those incident management teams, ITS teams, where they're working, which is in ServiceNow. And so Ben and his team have been kind of benefiting and experiencing some of this right in their ServiceNow platform and getting some of this context. So Ben, as you've deployed this new ServiceNow application to your teams, your incident management teams, what has that looked like? What are they benefiting from? You talked a little bit about the consistency, but could you talk us through some of the value that they're seeing?
Yeah, the value add I've seen this year is we running some numbers. We may have had the same number of incidents, but the time is much smaller now. Mm-hmm. So we're identifying that root cause and fixing things a lot faster than we were 2 years ago, for sure. So again, it goes back to that seconds, time, money, and we're able to find it, analyze it, identify it so much faster. I mean, it's really helped us improve our processes and also I think like the amount of time I have folks in operations spending online after hours is smaller too, right? So it just goes back to the work scenario, the personal scenario. It's really helped the total picture for my employees.
So you're able to investigate and identify that root cause and then in theory resolve it faster, and then also with fewer people and taking less time, which obviously has cost, implications absolutely. As well, spending less on your teams.
Yeah, absolutely. All those things have occurred due to this. So they're all domino effects to each other.
Yep. From a process point of view, or maybe incident management kind of workflow point of view, you talked a little bit about nobody loves to do the like after action or after incident analysis. Have you seen improvements to that sort of post-mortem work with some of this?
Yeah, for sure. So and my team's broken out. So I have incident managers and I have problem managers. So the problem managers do the RCA for me. But again, just another group that data is all there for them. They don't, in the past, they have to have interviews with 8 different people that worked on the incident. Okay, I'm pulling this data and then I'm gonna combine it. Now it's in one place. And like we were saying, like, we can kind of massage it a little bit. We have all the data. We just need to massage it a little bit to have this final RCA that we're going to present to people. So definitely improve process and speed on the problem management side as well.
Awesome. That's great to hear. I'd love to pick both of your brains a little bit, obviously coming from two different places. Ben, obviously, like you've implemented this with your NOC team and with incident management teams. Cam, you're talking to folks every single day, like folks like Ben and his teams every single day. What are some of the best practices that you would recommend? Ben, let's start with you, to someone in your position at a different organization. If they were just getting started, like what would your advice be for them?
Yeah, and I talk to a lot of folks out there in operations, and a lot of times they get like overwhelmed. I tell them where we're at. They're like, "Oh man, I got this. They can't even think about this end goal." So I tell people like, you don't know what you don't know. You got to stop at phase one. I usually use this comment, 0 to panda. You got to stop at 0 before you get to this final utopia, big panda world, right? So being able to break it down step by step, and the good thing about Big Panda, and this is, you guys aren't paying me to say this, they've worked with me over and over again. When we purchased and brought Big Panda in, it wasn't a lot of companies I've worked with in the past. You buy it, they dump it off on you, you never talk to them again until the contract's done. Whereas Big Panda, I feel like I'm a partner with Big Panda of we're working to the next step. Okay, now we've done this. Now we got this phase. And I think we've helped each other. I know we've helped Big Panda identify some issues or some ways to improve, and vice versa. So it's a journey with this, and being able to be successful is being able to break it down in little bites.
Yeah, it's great you mentioned. Well, my group, is the resident solution architect group, and yeah, we're embedded. We don't leave. We're there, and we don't just work on Big Panda. We help you with your ServiceNow, with your processes. We want to measure the whole thing. It really comes down to, if Big Panda is going to generate a piece of work in another system, we really want to know if that was good or not. And so we have a lot of ways to try to figure out how to measure that, instead of just saying like, oh, we gave you an incident, like, thanks. We want to make sure that it was a good incident, and how do we make it better? And my group just embeds with teams, with both service management, NOCs, everybody, to really understand and help the entire life cycle of incident and problem and service management.
And I think from a people leader perspective, it's important. When we use any word with AI now, I think people get nervous. They're like, "Oh, I'm not going to have a job. They're trying to get rid of me." So bring your employees along with you and say, "No, we're not getting rid of anyone. We're trying to make you do your job better and faster, so we can do different things." So I think it's very important to bring your team on the journey with you. Don't keep them in the blind of what's going on, but include them on the journey as you're moving forward. Is super important from a people process as well.
Great.
I think that's a good point. AI, it's how can AI allow your teams to elevate what they're doing, not remove what they're doing or do it instead of them, but actually elevate, improve, like change the game. AI is game changer. How does that mean that you can change what you're doing at Sony?
A perfect example. I mean, if you look at my NOC today and what they do compared to what they did when I was here 7 years ago, night and day. It's not even the same team. Where they do totally different things than they did 7 years ago. And if they did the same things they did 7 years ago, I wouldn't have a job and they wouldn't have a job probably. They wouldn't need the NOC.
Right.
So it's this continuous improvement of how we do business and how we do work for PlayStation.
Yeah. I think probably the most impressive thing from where you're sitting, Ben, is like, obviously you mentioned like 5 years of using Big Panda, but continuing to see value, right? Like that's something that a lot of organizations can struggle with any tool once they roll it out. Like there's initial value, but how do you continually, gain new value? Obviously that's on you, right? Because you're kind of like continuing to like poke down. Like
it's two-sided, right? So I need the cooperation from Big Panda, and I need the drive from my side to drive Big Panda and work with Big Panda. So I think a lot of companies or a lot of leaders and groups, they buy tools and they just let them sit. They don't work them. I want the best value for PlayStation and the tools I have. I only have so much budget, and I want to get the most out of my budget to have tools that can make me successful, my team successful, and PlayStation, the brand, successful.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
I was going to mention there's a number of things that Sony had kind of developed on their own that have eventually incorporated their way back into BigPanda. It has been a true partnership because there's been, I will call them customizations of a platform that turned out to be like, hey, well, why don't we just bake that in so it's 100% supported and out of box? And we work to do that as well, and it's helped everyone. So it's been fun. Sony's been a great partner to work with on a lot of this.
And it's like I always say, I like being at places where we're smart people that want to do the right thing, and I know that's how we do business at PlayStation. And if you don't work at a place like that, you need to find a place like that because it makes life a lot better.
The status quo is never good enough. Kind of keep pushing that line. Yeah. All right, we have a couple of minutes left, and there have been some questions that have come in, so I would love to ask a few of those. The first one is for you, Ben. I think this is a common question that we hear, and you touched on it a little bit, but my teams are hesitant to use new tools. They're set in their ways. So what was the adoption of BigPanda like at Sony? How did you sort of navigate that human change side?
Right. And I think it goes back to, I was very open with my teams about what I was doing, what we were trying to do, and bringing them along on the journey, right? Because like I said, it's scary for people when you bring in new things and what they're going to do, how's this going to change my life? So it was very important to me to keep them updated. Something that, as everyone can't be involved in the journey, right? I can't have 100 people at a meeting, but keeping them informed as the process moves forward. Like, this is what we're doing now. This is our goal. So showing them this is the finish line. This is where we are, and keeping them updated. I think that was huge for me and my organization to keep everyone. This is what we're doing. I never change path. This is what we are doing. So come with me on this road, right? And there was never any question. They didn't have to question me because they knew what we were trying to accomplish and where we were going. So I think that's huge to keep everyone on the same page.
Yeah, absolutely. Cam, this question is for you. You mentioned you kind of expected root cause to be a hot topic. I guess there's a little question here about how BigPanda correlates that change data to be able to identify root cause. Can you talk a little bit more about what's going on there, how we do that?
Yeah. And so, the important thing to note is it's not just looking at a bunch of host names in the change. That is a decent sized weight of how we look at things, because it is critically important. If you make a change to 10 different CIs and they have these host names and alerts come in for those host names afterwards, definitely want to look at that. But, there is a ton of context in a change. And for anybody who's familiar with change management, it's probably the biggest, ugliest process in ServiceNow, because it just gets so out of control so quickly with cabs and everybody wants a backup plan and just, but all that metadata is really important, right? The backup plan, the implementation plan. And so using all of that with our AI technology, it just does allow us to make smaller, minute relationships between change and events that are coming in. And it's been very successful. One of the gentlemen who was working on that for a while used to be on my team and has moved off into innovation now, basically because he did such a great job. It's fun watching him, come up with new ideas and like that whole, if you say we're gonna, reboot the server, he can equate that to a host down alert. Is pretty fascinating when you start thinking about what are the possibilities of how I could tie changes to incidents. And so know that we're constantly kind of evolving that and working on it, trying to come up with new brilliant ideas.
Cam, I started my career as a change manager, so I have a soft place in my heart for change management.
I've implemented so many customers, big Fortune 500 customers, change management process on ServiceNow. It's the one I always dreaded. It's like, change is such a beast.
My wife used to tell me, I tell her, what do you do for a living? I'm in charge of change management and problem management. She goes, that sounds hideous. I'm like, it is.
There's nothing good in there.
Love it. Okay, let's do time for one last question. This one's for you, Ben. We talked a little bit about this. You've been able to get investment for BigPanda for a number of years now. So what's your process for continually showing your leadership that you're deserving of that continued investment for AIOps and for BigPanda?
So I think the goal for any investment I'm trying to get is to show the benefit. And I think with BigPanda and these tools, these AIOps tools, it's very easy for me to show that benefit and that time savings and the cost savings and incident savings. So you can map it up and you can look at your incidents prior and now and go, look at this. I mean, we financially went down from, these are fake numbers, 500 hours to 400 hours. That's 100 hours savings is a lot of money. So being able to show that has helped me drive. That's why I tell everyone when I talk about this is, it's easy for you to show. Once you show the numbers, it's a no-brainer, right? Like, oh, you want me to spend this to save this? It's an easy decision to make at that point.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And especially when you have those dashboards and some of that analytics to be able to serve that right up for you.
Right.
Measure. That's
measure. Yeah. All right. Well, we are at the end of our time. I just want to say thank you to you, Ben, and to you, Cam, for joining us today. This was a great conversation. I hope others will find some value in it as well. But thank you for joining and enjoy the rest of your day.
Yep. Nope. Thanks, Katie. Thanks, Cam.
Thank you. Bye-bye.